Hello friends, welcome back to DigiTalk. In this video, we will learn about how we can deploy the applications in Weblogic server along with the redeployment of application, but in the detailed explanation. So I have posted few videos on deployment earlier as well. Okay, but in this video, I am going to explain you few more things apart from that or whatever I have discussed in those videos. Okay. And so whenever we do the deployment, then we get a lot of options. Okay. And there are different modes how the application will be accessible by the WebLogic server when we do the deployments. And that completely depend on a lot of default configurations or maybe your customized configurations. And then when we deploy the application, it can be deployed as an application. It can be deployed as a library. So what does it mean? Okay. I will explain you with certain examples. Okay. So before going ahead with the deployment, okay, but first let us understand about the different deployment modes. So we have three main deployment modes when we do the deployment of applications in WebLogic: the stage mode, no stage mode, and external stage mode. Okay, so whenever we do a deployment, okay, in the WebLogic server, we select the application from certain location, right? Whatever the code you get from the development team, you put it somewhere in your server where you are the WebLogic server is running, and then you go to console or maybe with the help of the scripts, do the deployment where you specify the location of your code file, whether it is a var file, jar file, er file. Okay, but how this application file will be accessible by the WebLogic? Okay, so during the deployment, there are different options how this WebLogic get reference these applications at the runtime. Okay, so first option is stage mode. Okay, and this is the default option as well. So whenever you do the deployment from the WebLogic console, the default mode of deployment is stage mode. Okay, so what happened in that case, irrespective of the location where you have placed your jar, var, or er file, when you do the deployment, WebLogic automatically pick that file during the deployment and copy it in the staging directory of each and every server wherever you are doing a deployment. Okay, that means inside the domain, you always see a folder with name servers, and inside servers, you will see the different servers with the name of your admin server and managed server. Okay, and inside that, you will have a lot of different folders as well, like security, stage, and then data logs as well. Okay, so at that location, once you will do the deployment, okay, in stage mode, it will create another folder with the name stage. Okay, this is the first time when you are doing a deployment on your WebLogic server. First time, it will create a folder with name stage, and it will deploy all the your file inside that file, inside that particular folder. That means it will your WebLogic server will take the copy from the location where you have specified and copy inside the stage folder. So if you have 4 managed servers, then it will copy inside all of the 4 managed server stage directory, and whenever you start off your application or at the runtime, this application get reference from the stage directory. Okay, this is the stage mode of deployment where your admin server copy your code file on each and every target server. Second is your no stage mode. As clear from the name as well, no stage. Okay, in that case, if you have selected the no stage mode, your admin server will not copy your code file to each and every managed server staging directory. Instead of that, it will access the file or instead your code from the location where you have deployed. Okay, so in that case, you have to make sure that particular application which is you are getting deployed in no stage mode should be accessible from a particular directory, and that directory should be accessible to all of your managed servers. Okay, so what does it mean? If you have a single server or single machine architecture, then it is fine because the directory will be accessible to your all the managed servers. But if you have a horizontal clustering where you have a multiple servers are running across your cluster, okay, where you have a multiple machines and across the cluster, so that means your managed servers are spanned across the cluster. So that means if I'm saying that a directory where you have placed your code file should be accessible to all the servers, that means you need a shared NFS or shared directory in that case. So that directory should be mounted on each and every host. And that is the way your application, your managed servers can reference the file from the location that you are getting deployed. Okay, so in a nutshell, you can say when you're going for a deployment in no stage mode, you need a shared directory between all of your machines, and there you can place your file and do the deployment. I will show you in the next few slides when we go for the deployment. External stage mode, uh, I haven't saw this kind of a deployment in my complete career. Okay, and this mode is similar to a stage mode. So in stage mode, the admin server automatically copy your file to the staging directory of each and every managed server. But when we talk about the external stage mode, in that case, it is similar to stage mode, but the difference is that admin server will not copy the your code automatically. Okay, so there has to be a manual process or some automated process which will deploy your file in each and every server's stage location. Okay, so this is if I talk about the practical implementation, most of the time you will see the files getting deployed in stage mode, which is a default as well, and sometimes in no stage mode as well, when specifically when your code file is very big, right? As I said, during the deployment, your code file get deployed, copy to each and every managed server. If your code file is very big, sometimes it in GB as well, okay, then your deployment is going to take a hell of time in that case. So for that, it is preferable to have a no stage mode of deployment. Okay, so let us see when we go for the deployment, then where we see all these options for stage, no stage, deployment kind of options. Okay, so let us begin with the admin console. Go to admin console, click on the deployment tab on the left side, and then on the right side, you will see if you have any applications, then you will see the list there. If there is no application, it is blank, then click on the install to deploy your application. Okay. In second screen, you have to select the location, or you have to select the application file which you are going to be deployed, where exactly it is placed in your server. Okay, in my case, the benefits.var file is my file which is deployed, which is I have pasted or placed inside C:/apps deployment var files folder. Okay, so I have selected this particular file from this location, right? And in the next screen, you will see an option install this application deployment as an application, and second option is install this deployment as a library. Okay, so we'll come to the install this deployment as an application, which is a default as well, and by most of the time we go with that option only. The second is the install this deployment as a library. What exactly it means? Okay, the scope would be always global because you are deploying the application at the domain level. Okay, and then you have to click next. But let us discuss about what does it mean. Install this deployment as a library, which is very important term. Okay, so what is mean is library is, it is very clear from the name as well. It is a library, just like a book library where the similar book is shared by the different students. Similar to here as well, you have a library. That means you have a code which is shareable between different applications, and like you have multiple applications and then can share a single code. Okay, so what happens when we deploy a large var file application? It would be more easier to manage if we can separate the dependency jar away from the rest of the web content, or at least those third-party jars that do not update often. That means if you're deploying a var file, okay, then it is always, we have a good practice, the code which is never changed, or the code which is very rarely changed, or if you have a third-party jar files which you get updated in couple of months or an year of time, okay, that means in that case it is always good practice to have such jar files can be deployed as a library, because the rest of the code, if I talk about the web file, then you have HTML, JSP, servlets, and then different code as well. Okay, that is get changed very frequently. Okay, and every time you have to bundle the file in the archive format, and again you are going for deployment of a large file where you are not doing any changes in your library files, but every time you are deploying it again and again, and every time you are extracting it again and again, right? So if you have a certain kind of a code, or and the code, that jar file I'm talking about, this could be a component of a code, okay, which is get referenced by the multiple applications. Okay, so if you have a multiple applications and same jar file or same code need to be referenced by all, so it is not a good practice that we are zipping and then deploying same code again and again with the multiple var files. If I have a 10 var files in my environment and this certain code is referenced by all the 10 files, right? So it is unnecessary if you are going for the deployment of such jar files in each and every var file. Instead of that, you can do a deployment of jar file in a single go. Okay, and that can be referenced by your applications. Okay, so in that case, we usually call the jar content and share libraries. The code that is getting shared by the different applications, right? That is called as a shared library. And apart from that, whatever the content is, rest content is called your skinny var file. Okay, so just separate and package your var application into. That means when you are going for a deployment as in library, okay, again it will be a var file. Okay, just like we have a simple web application. In same way, if you wanted to deploy a jar files as a library, okay, again for that you have to create a var file. Okay, and there is specific directory structure when we do the deployment of application, development of applications, and then we pack the applications in the archive format before deploying it on Weblogic server. For example, we have a ER file, jar file, var file. So they have a specific format. Okay, that means there are multiple directories inside that one, and the code, whatever we write, it's placed inside the separate folders according to the requirements. Okay, so that part we will cover in a separate video where I will explain about the different archive file structure, how we create a different archive files when the code is ready. Okay, but as of now, what you can understand is that you are creating a different var file for your libraries. Okay, and what exactly there inside? So each web var file folder is there with the name of web-inf. This will be the part of the architecture of your directory structure of your var file. Okay, so when it is a jar file, okay, or you can say when it is a shared library file, so inside web inf we create a one folder lib, and we place all the library files inside that particular folder. Okay, when we go for the development of a var files. Okay, so you can place your jar files inside the lib folder, and apart from that there is nothing required. Okay, rest of the folders and the content will be in the separate your skinny var file. So this is the way you are getting to segregate your code content. Okay, and when we talk about the shared var file, okay, so inside that you will have another. Um, uh, I'm getting call. Just hold on. I'm getting to pause the video for some time, please. Okay, so as I said, when it is a shared library var file, okay, so inside that one you will have a mainfest.mf file which will be inside your meta-inf folder. Okay, so inside meta-inf folder you will have a mainfest.mf file. Okay, so inside that file you will write the content which I have shown on the screen in blue. Implementation title, implementation version, specification title, specification version, and then extension name. Okay, and this will be getting referenced inside your skinny var file, right? So skinny var file is my the actual web application, right? Where I have excluded my jar file as an library, right? So to reference, because my web applications will have to reference the library files, right? As I said, that libraries get deployed in a uh, separate format, right? And then or you can say in a separate deployment, and that library need to be referenced by all the applications. So how these applications reference this particular library is that we defined in the weblogic.xml file. So when we develop the var file, there is a descriptor file called weblogic.xml, okay, which is a part of your var file. Okay, inside the weblogic.xml, we have to specify the name of the content or the version that you have defined inside the manifest.mf file, which I have highlighted in the red as a name of library name, then specification version and implementation version. And this is how your applications can reference to a particular library or a particular file, jar file. Okay. And so what does it mean? What I have explained so far to you is I have explained about how you can deploy your code as an application, or it can be deployed as a library. And when we deploy it as a library, then what is the meaning of that one? So deploy both var files, shared and skinny application as applications, right? In that case, you have to deploy the both files separately, right? So var application will be deployed as by selecting the option as application, and your jar file or the library file will be deployed by selecting the option installed as application. Okay, and when you are running, then WebLogic server will combine both of them together so that they can use each other, right? So this come handy if you are deploy multiple instances of your skinny var application, but now you only need one shared lib file. So multiple var files are referencing the same code, then you can deploy it as a library. Okay, and once you're doing the deployment, okay, then make sure that the same target is selected for the library and same target is selected for the var application, because they are going to use each other. Okay, now second other option is when you go for the deployment after selecting the file is you have to select the target. In my case, I have selected the managed server with the name ms1, and then you have to give a name to your application, which will be by default according to the name of your archive file. Inside security, we always go with the default option, which is the first one, DD only, use only roles and security policies that are defined in the deployment descriptors. 99.9% of time, your all the deployment descriptors, security descriptors that are defined in the code is get referenced in your application. So select the by default this option. Okay. And now the important point is how the source availability. So this is about the first slide that I have explained about. We have different stage and no stage mode for the application deployment. Okay. So by default, the selected option is use the default defined by the deployment target. That means use the default mode, whatever is defined by the deployment target. So deployment target is our managed server, right? Because we are deploying the application in our managed server. So my default deployment target is my managed server. So whatever the default configuration of the deployment is configured for my managed server, it will be the default mode for the deployment of my application, right? So this is called as per the configuration of the server or the deployment target. So I will show you in the next step where we define the default target mode and how this gets deployed. Okay. Second option is copy this application onto every target for me. Okay. So this is the stage mode. Okay. The first one is the default. The default in the sense, as I said, the default deployment option or mode for application or for WebLogic is the stage mode. Okay, but you can change it to no stage and external stage as well. Okay, so for the first option, it could be either one of three. Okay, but the second one, copy this application onto every target for me, is a stage mode. Okay, if you are not sure about the configuration of your deployment targets, okay, and you want your application to be deployed in the stage mode, then you can select the second option. So this will copy your application from the original location to each and every server's stage directory. Okay, and third one is I will make the deployment accessible from the following location. Okay, that means you are going to make the application accessible from a single location, right? So this is same that I have explained to you when we discussed about the no stage mode, where your applications access from a single location. That means whatever the target that you have specified, they will all access the application from a single location. So application will not getting really copied on each and every server stage folder. Okay, so in that case, this particular location that I have specified in my this screen, it should be the shared location so that this application will be accessible by your all of your targets. Those are they running in the different machines in your horizontal clustering. So it has to be NFS or the shared drive in that place. Okay, and then plan source ability, it is a plan file. Okay, I have another video posted on this one. You can go through that one to understand the deployment plan, what exactly it is. But when you're doing the deployment first time of your application, okay, then during the first time of deployment, you go with the use the same accessibility as the application, whatever defined in your application. Okay, so let us understand about the default deployment target. Okay, this is I'm talking about the option one. As I said, use the default defined by the deployment target. It is as per the configuration of the server. In that case, you can have either one out of three deployment modes. So how we can change that one and where we can configure that one. For that one, you just go to your admin console, click on your servers, and then click on your manage server. Then click on your configuration and deployment tab. Inside deployment tab, you will see that there is a drop box with the staging mode, and then there is a staging directory name. Okay, so this is the default deployment target configurations, which will be selected automatically when you do the deployment of your application. So the staging mode in that case would be the stage by default. Staging directory would be the same directory that I was saying to you. There would be a folder with name servers inside your domain. Inside that, there would be a folder with the name of managed server, MS1 in my case. Inside that, it will create a folder with name stage, and then your application will get copied inside that folder. So this is the default configuration already in your managed server, and that is the location where it take all the default configurations when you do the deployment of your application. Okay, if you want to change the default targeting mode of your application, then you can click on Dropbox and then you can select either stage, no stage, or external stage. And in no stage, make sure the directory that you're specifying, it is a NFS or a shared directory, because as I said, in no stage mode, applications are accessible by all the managed servers which is running in your multiple machines from a single location. So that location should be accessible to all the servers. Okay, and that is only possible when you are doing a shared directory configurations or NFS configurations in your server. Right. In the next screen, you can select the yes, that take me to the deployment configuration screen, where it will show you all the configurations that you have selected, and then click on the finish. So once you are finished, then it will take you to the details screen of your application, where you can see the different options: name, scope, path, deployment, staging mode, and then path, plan, staging mode, everything. Okay, and then context root is the application context, web application context, how you are going to access the application on the browser. Okay. So when it is a development mode, then you will see the application, it is in active state. If your code is correct, everything is correct, okay, there is no problem with your code, the application will get deployed and it will automatically come in the active state when it is a development mode domain. Okay, so when it is a production mode domain, then you will see the application, it is in the prepared state. Okay, so when it is a prepared state, you have to start the application. Okay, then you go to your deployment application, click on your application, and then click on start and serving all requests, and then it will start your application. And this is how I am accessing my application. This is the front end of my application, where localhost is a machine where it is running, and 8006 is the managed server port, and benefits is the context root of my web application. Right, so this is all about the deployment. Now, let us come to redeploy. If there is change in the code and you want to redeploy the application, then how you can redeploy your application. So in my case, whatever the web application that I have deployed, that was with the context slash benefits, right? Now I have changed my application to use slash. Okay, that means I have changed the context of my application. So with the previous code, my application was accessible as slash benefits in the browser. But when I will redeploy my application, the new code or the new application will be accessed with the only slash, okay, without benefits contents. So it's very simple. When you go for the redeployment application, just go and replace your existing file. Okay. For example, in my case, I have deployed my benefits.var file. Okay. And then I will go to the location where I have copied my previous file, and then I have replaced that file with my new code file in that location. Okay, and because my applications are getting reference from my stage folder, because I have deployed my application in the staging mode, so there would not be any harm if you're going to delete this file or going to change this file. Okay, so I have changed my benefits.var file in the particular location, and I went to my admin console, clicked on deployments, and then select my application which I need to update, and then click on the update tab. So once you will click on the update tab, it will automatically take the source path from where I have deployed, because I have deployed from the C:/F deployment var files, right? And I have copied my new file in the same location, so no need to change the path. Okay, if you are going to change the path, if your file is now in new file is in different location, then you can select the different path as well. Okay, and then select your file. And there is no deployment plan for my this file. Okay, and then you have to click on the finish. So once it is finished, that means your new application is get deployed after some time. Depend on the size of your code, it will take time, and you will see that your application in active state. And now you will see the context who is no value specified, because I have modified my web application to use or be accessible with the help of without any context, right? So now you try to access the application with the help of /benefits, then it will not get deployed because I have changed my code. And how this will be accessible? It will be accessible without any context root. This is how I have changed my application, and then I have redeployed my application, right? So if you need the sample file for your testing purpose, R&D purpose, then you can mail me on digittalk.fmw@gmail.com, okay? And I will share with you the applications for your testing purpose, okay? So thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned for a few more interesting videos.